Welcome to my December garden. It's the first time I get to say that this year. Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B in southeastern North Carolina, and today we're winterizing the garden. So what that means is we have some plants to take care of, some cutting down that has to now be done since frost has come and taken its foliage down. And I also have to get the water out of my drip irrigation system so that it doesn't freeze after this. So we're going to do all of that and who knows what else as well. Do you remember over the summer when my banana trees were looking luscious and glorious and they were so tall and I was so proud of them? Well, this is what happens when the frost comes and takes the foliage down. So I need to get to clipping those guys, and we're going to talk about exactly how I do that. We are also going to talk about this. My secret garden has gotten very brown just from the last couple of frosts. These temperatures just did them in. So it is also time to take care of my Canna Lilies, which are all brown the whole way. So much of what you can see. And then I have my elephant ears over here too. The banana tree leaves, like I said, the foliage is completely dead. We do not need to keep this on here if we don't want to. I don't want to. My husband doesn't want to because we don't like the way it looks. So our choice for our banana trees is cutting these stalks at the tallest point possible where the foliage comes out. So in this case, it's nearly as tall as I am normally, so I don't know, nearly 5 feet tall on this baby. Some people choose to cover their banana trees and protect them for the winter. I have not done that in the 6 or so years that I've had them, so that's just not my preference. Some other people don't cut their foliage off at all. You have to do that eventually, but some people choose not to do that right away. My winterizing process is to get this foliage gone and just keep the stalks up. The one thing I want to remind you of, I've said this before, but it's definitely worth reminding you, saying it again. Cut the stalks as tall as possible, again, where your last foliage was coming out of, because that keeps the height of the tree. So in the spring, my new foliage is going to emerge from this height. If I go and cut this 1 foot down to the ground, my foliage is going to emerge out of that spot. So you might as well give yourself the built-in height in the spring. So here we go. Very, very watery. Banana trees hold a ton of water in there, but I'm going to cut right about this height here. I know. We're all very sad because our sweet little baby bananas were on there, but this is not going to do us any good at this point. I'm running away from it as if it's going to be so heavy and fall on my head or poke me in the eye, but this is very, very soft. Everything about this is very soft. Again, it's watery, but this probably only weighs a couple of pounds, and that's probably because of this. know how sad this looks, and trust me, nobody is more sad than I am to lose this luscious tropical foliage, but also the privacy here, as well as it giving me some shade, all of those types of things. But alas, it's time for them to go, and they'll be back again next year. So if you're curious about what I'm using to cut them down, battery-powered Sawzall or reciprocating saw, it just makes the job super duper easy. My tallest stalk there probably was about maybe 6 feet tall. It felt, was taller than I am. And then of course the foliage extends so big. This is going to allow me to have a cleaner look at everything where all the stalks come up. And that's going to make it easier in the spring when I go to divide these up. I've divided up my banana trees many times over the years. I've given away many banana trees because the clusters of them are beautiful, but a lot of times the foliage gets in the way of each other, and I don't really want the trees to compete that much where they have to worry about getting enough water or whatever, because they are water suckers. So here we are. It looks very sad, but onward and upward and off to the Canna Lilies. Actually, before we walk away completely, I did have people ask if I cut these down at an angle or anything else. I am not that particular. I have a lot of these. I've had them for a long time. If some of them get cut at an angle, great. If some of them don't, okay too. I haven't had any problem at all. So those are just some things to note from me and from my experience. I'm not too particular about that at all. So here we are at my Canna Lilies. Canna lilies and banana trees leaf out very similarly. They have leaves that shoot up almost like they're rolled up, and then they unfurl, and then this huge leaf comes out. In that way, they're similar, but in the way that they're different is the banana trees are going to leaf out from the stalks that we left behind. So that's the reason why we left the stalks as tall as we did, so that the foliage could just shoot out from that height. Canna lilies don't do that. Canna lilies actually shoot out from their rhizome roots that are under the ground, and we start with fresh height every single year on those. Now, they get very tall. Some varieties are very tall by themselves, but that has nothing to do with where we cut them down or anything else. Now, I am in zone 8A in southeastern North Carolina. My ground does not freeze here. I do not have to dig up my rhizome roots of my canna lilies. I will leave these right in the ground. I can cut my foliage down to whatever height I want to, whatever I'm comfortable with, because none of that is going to be part of the plant next year. So let's get going cleaning up some of these Canna lilies. I do want to show you two pieces of adorableness that is left over here. First, I have a brand new Canna lily leaf right here. Can you see that? So it looks green. It looks like it's going to come up as a beautiful plant, but alas, the continual frosty nights are going to take that down as well. And then this is one of the cordyline propagation plants that I planted in the ground. It doesn't look, colorful and magenta and everything like my big cordyline plant, but that's what this is. And so far it's also standing up, but I expect that foliage to go away as well. My, oh my, things are looking different around here. The secret garden now is not very secret. This patch of canna lilies is the last bit I'm going to do, and then it is time to tackle the drip irrigation lines. Cutting the elephant ears back were really self-explanatory because their growth also starts from the ground up, so no need to keep any of that extra foliage. Once the canna lily foliage and stalks dry out a little bit more, I can go ahead and do a neater job of the trimming that I did. But for now, this works. It gets the tall brown dead foliage really cleaned up and onward and upward, as I keep saying. As sad as this is, it's nice to know that all of this stuff is perennial and is going to be back again next year. The next thing we are taking care of is my drip irrigation system. So we want to make sure there is no water left in the lines, and we are disconnecting it for now. So we're going to use the air compressor to blow low pressure air in there. I think my husband says 5 psi. Does that mean anything to you? Because I don't really know what it means to me, except it's not a lot. So we are going to disconnect this timer right here, and I have 2 separate lines. These are my 2 zones that run through my front yard, and we are going to blow each of these lines separately with the air and make sure that we are all good. So I'm going to disconnect both of my hoses here for each of my zones. Here's one. And here's 2. Now I got to take my timer off. Let's see, is it working? Yes, slowly but surely we're getting the job done. Here we go. And I definitely don't want to lose my little screen filter here. Wow, it's actually a lot of water in there. All right, moving on. So the idea behind disconnecting everything and of course blowing the air through is simple. It's the same idea that we have with a hose. You're not going to leave a hose with water in it in the winter connected because you don't want your hose to freeze. You don't want things to crack, and you certainly don't want to ruin the drip irrigation system that it took you 25 hard years of gardening to finally get. So we're just taking care of our system. That's it. Time to winterize. So this is the end of my air compressor hose, okay? So this is what the fitting looks like here, and this is where I was trying to put it in. It turns out that this is actually going to be a pretty good and snug fit for what I need to do. And if it wasn't going to be a snug fit, I was actually going to duct tape this sucker into place because you know me, easiest is best. So this is the kind of air. Can you hear that? Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be tucking this into place, and we're going to be shooting a little bit of air into the hose. And I can hear it gurgling out there. Whoop. So I'm holding the air compressor in here just to make sure it's secure enough so that the air is forcing through the way I want it to. It's probably taking me a good 4 minutes per line to let the water run all the way through. Now, granted, I do have a long length of tube because I have a lot of flower beds that I water, but just so you know, it's not just going to take one little shot of air and we're all set. So probably about 4 minutes. So my hose, my tubes are actually going to stay outside for the winter. This part of it that's attached, to the whole system. I just am going to plug up the ends here so we don't get any critters like little lizards or bugs or anything going up inside these. So these will stay outside plugged. You can get those plugs right from the hardware store. And the timer itself, that is going to be stored inside. So things continue to change, and we as gardeners continue to change right along with it. So I know it's sad to see things like this happen, and I'm feeling a little sad about it also. And I also did want to note that here in Southern North Carolina, we don't cover our pools. So you might get to see some pretty shots of the blue water all the time. So even if it's freezing cold outside and it looks like I can jump in there, I'm not going to do that. But I think for my next video, I want to do something inspiring and creative to kind of get us out of this little funk that we're feeling of it's December, things in our garden are dead, all of that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that. Inspiration coming your way. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey. And until next time, happy planting.